Hi, it's Mr. Hammer here. We're going to be talking about data management today. This is section chapter 5. And the first thing for unit launch is to say, well, why is data management even important? Who really cares about data management? But in your life, when you read newspapers and magazines and when you're watching TV, all these different advertisers and all these different companies and all these different psychologists, they're going to give you information telling you that studies have been done, research has been done, telling you that it's better to drink 3 cups of coffee a day, or it's better to go jogging 4 times a week, or all these things that you could do in your life to change your life could have an effect on your health or your mood or something else. And it's important to understand what those numbers mean and how to interpret the data. The data are the numbers that they tell you, the results, the things that they say to you, and interpreting means you will understand what they're saying and what it could actually mean instead of just blindly believing what they're telling you. So let's look at an example of a situation where somebody has conducted a survey. So one of the ways researchers get information is to ask people questions to simply find out about their lifestyle. So in this case, you've got an example where Mia wants to find out the favorite singer of her classmates. And so she conducted a survey. That, again, as I said, is one way that researchers, scientists, can collect information to find out about people. So she asked this particular question. Who is your favorite singer? Bryan Adams, Susan Gluckert, Celine Dion, Sam Roberts, Shania Twain, or other. Some of these singers will be singers that you don't know, but that's okay. So, then she's going to record her results. We call this a tally chart. Okay, each one of these little ticks over here is a tally. Each tick represents one student who answered. So for Bryan Adams, there were 5 students who answered that was their favorite. 5 for the next one, Susan A. I'll just call her Susan A. Celine Dion, 7 students. Let's write the numbers here. 5, 5, 7, 3, 2. And for other, 11 students responded that was their favorite. So, whoops. Let's take a peek here. So Mia concluded, she took all this information, this part here, these are called the results. This is what she found after she asked the question. And this is her interpretation. This is what she concludes based upon those results. That Celine Dion was the most popular singer of those named because Celine Dion had 7 students who said they were their favorite. However, as you can see, if all the votes in the other category were one singer, that singer would be the most popular. Now let's get on to the next issue, the next thing I want to point out. That Mia collected the data herself. So then we call that primary data. When you yourself go out and do the research yourself, then it's primary because you know as a fact that you know the method, you know how you approach the students, and you know that the results, the check marks that you got are correct. You did it. The proof is the fact that you did it yourself. However, if she gets that information, or if you get the information from the library or the internet, we call that secondary data, okay, because you didn't collect it yourself. Now, an important part for surveys is that when you're collecting data, and again, data are just the numbers. So 5 students like this artist, 7 students like this musician, 8 students like that. Those numbers, 5, 7, and 8, those are data. And it's very important that we collect those in a fair way. And sometimes the way a question is asked or written might persuade a person to answer in a certain way. And that type of question is called biased. Okay? That's one of our key words here. The question has to be unbiased. That is, the question must not lead a person to a particular answer. So some important words here that you'll need to remember are primary data, which is data collected by yourself. Secondary data, data not collected by yourself, but by other people. So in the library, the internet, something that you read. And biased is when the wording of a question might persuade somebody to answer in a certain way. And you can see how that would be unfair. We're going to look at a couple examples of biased questions. So, how is each survey question biased? That's the first question. And then the next one is rewrite the question so it becomes unbiased. So here's the first question. Many students are bored at the end of August. Should the school year be longer, yes or no? Well, that question is leading people because here's the question here. should the school year be longer? But this opinion beforehand is telling people that students are bored at the end of August. That means maybe they want to go back to school earlier, and therefore it's leading people to answer no. Or, sorry, it's leading people to answer yes, that the school year should be longer. The school year perhaps should start in August because students are bored, and we'll start the school year a little bit earlier. So that's a biased question. How could we get rid of that bias? Well, simply we could just cross out this first part here because it's not necessary and just start with our question. Should the school year be longer? Yes or no? And then only your opinion is part of the question. Let's look at the next one. Some people get sick after visiting patients in hospital. Do you think patients in a hospital should have visitors? Yes or no opinion. Again, before the question, here's the question, we have an opinion here. That some people get sick after visiting patients. Well, if people are getting sick after visiting patients, if that opinion is being brought forward, we would say, well, maybe patients should not have visitors in the hospital because people are getting sick after those visitors come in. Maybe those visitors are bringing in illness. That opinion is going to potentially affect the answer, and therefore the question is biased. So the same way as before, to make it unbiased, we simply get rid of that opinion and only put the question, and it is now an unbiased question. So what have you learned today? You've learned about the fact that numbers in surveys or in studies are called data. And scientists give you those numbers, but you need to understand how to interpret those data and what they mean. You've learned that if you collect that information yourself, it's called primary data. If you find that information on the internet or in a library, it's called secondary data. And you've learned that a question has to be fair if you're giving a survey. And that if the question has some information that might lead people to answer in a certain way, that is called a biased question. And you always want to have an unbiased question.